What is up, everybody? I am Admiral Angeli, aka Yellowstone Wolf, and in this video, you guys, I'm going to be detailing exactly how it is that I got involved in the Super Soldier program, how long ago this started, how I was recruited, why, how it is that this kind of stuff works, because I'm definitely not the only Super Soldier that we have, but I am, as far as I know, the only Super Soldier that's allowed to come forward in this way. So if you can understand the story that I'm about to tell you, if you can kind of understand what happened to me, then you can understand what has happened to so many other people that are on this planet that are a part of this Super Soldier program, and how exactly it is that one would get recruited into this, why they would get recruited into this, and the types of abilities that a Super Soldier has, the quote-unquote superpowers that a Super Soldier has. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to try to make it brief, but it may get kind of in depth and maybe a little bit long. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep it brief though. So if you haven't seen my other videos, definitely check those out, because that is going to help you to put a lot of this in the context. But I'm just going to gloss over stuff, that in these other videos, I give a lot of detail. Okay. So where would a super soldier come from? Why does a super soldier get made? Where does this, there's so many questions. Well, to start, let's start with the idea that in many cases, these super soldiers that are in these special access programs that are like basically off budget, black budget programs, these individuals are actually chosen for this task because of abilities that they have that are already like kind of given to them, or it's part of their lineage or part of their abilities naturally to have quote unquote enhanced psychic abilities. So these individuals are called star seeds, they're called psychics, they're called star children, rainbow children, crystal children, indigo children, you name it. There's all sorts of different names for these individuals. What we were talking about is people that are coming from different dimensions or different frequencies of vibration. In most cases with the super soldiers, for the most part, not all, we'll get to that in a little bit, we're talking about beings that come from a different dimension. In my case, we're just going to talk about my case in particular. Okay, in my case, I come from an extremely high frequency dimension of light, love, peace, and harmony, like an angelic dimension that I actually remember where I came from, but we'll get into that in a little bit. These super soldiers, these star seeds, are born onto the earth based off of where the planets and the stars are when they are born. So that's when these large dispensations of energy are dumped into reality, is when certain individuals are born in certain star alignments, and then these individuals almost act like the gateways for this energy to move through the dimensions of space and time. So the human being is two parts creating a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. It's the sperm and the egg coming together to create a constantly evolving multicellular organism that is conscious of itself and is able to send and receive the signal known as non-local consciousness of quantum physics, or God, to religions. So this collective mind, this oneness spirit that everything is connected to, all life, all physical and non-physical existence is connected to, is this signal that human beings are able to perceive and to work with. Okay, the human body is one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced pieces of hardware in the universe. So with that said, these individuals that come from these other dimensions, these super soldiers, they have a highly dense neural connectivity in their brain. They have highly dense neural connectivity in their brain, which gives them like superhuman levels of intelligence. It gives them very, really large IQs. Now, they aren't just really smart. This structure in their brain, this stable structure, actually has multiple dimensions to it in the neurological network. This is something that science has proven. They say that our brain has like 10 or 11 dimensions of neural networks or neural connectivity, which basically means you can put a cube within a cube within a cube within a cube 11 times, and the structure is stable and sound, so you wouldn't have to worry about it collapsing. All right, so imagine this idea of a 12-dimensional neural or 11-dimensional neurological network based off of a cube inside of your brain. All of these neurons connecting with one another in this interdimensional pattern. Now try to grasp the idea that there are far more complex patterns, like say the icosahedron, that have far more density and connection than something as simple as a cube. That being said, these individuals that have these extremely high connectivity in their brains, these like genius levels of intelligence, they also have the ability of affecting the other dimensions of reality, because their intelligence and the quote unquote height to their intelligence is actually the height of a frequency that is this information processor that is the human body, the ability to process this signal of the collective mind and all of the information that is accessible within the DNA and within the collective unconscious. So these individuals that are able to do this, that are able to affect and interact with these higher dimensions above the body and above the physical state due to this certain level of intelligence and neuroconnectivity that they have, these individuals act like a statistical anomaly in the dimensions of space and time, and they act like a dispensation of a certain type of energy frequency within all the universe, the multiverse as a whole, and they end up affecting the timelines. Okay, they end up affecting which timeline the planet moves to and toward. So with that said, that's where this whole idea of supervillains and superheroes comes from in the comic book world. Jack Kirby was actually a CIA agent, and comic books were soft disclosure. This is actually nothing new. This idea of superheroes and supervillains is nothing new. It's something that goes way, way, way back to ancient stories from Sumer and way before then. We're talking about something known as the hero's journey, and the hero's journey is actually built into the very fabric and the dimensions of space and time, just as consciousness itself is built into the very fabric and the dimensions of space and time. And there are certain individuals, either superheroes or supervillains, that use this large awareness of understanding to affect the hologram to either keep people safe or to enslave people. So with that said, this idea of Captain America is actually something, from what I understand, that's rooted in native legend, that there is actually this spiritual force in the Americas that is responsible for tending to the life in this continent, and is responsible for like protecting it and keeping it safe. So Captain America is actually a distillation from a much, much older Native American legend. And it's a reality. And for those of you that have seen some of my other videos, there's a reason why I'm allowed to call myself Captain America. Now it's more like Admiral America, but it's because I've earned this title. It's because it is this energy, it is this high frequency love energy, this protector energy that resides within me, based off of these cycles of my of time and the planets relating to my birth and the entire cosmic cycle. So whether or not you believe me, I understand this may create a cognitive dissonance for you. I understand that. Just trust me when I say that everything I'm about to tell you is true. Everything I'm about to tell you is real. This is all declassified at this point, and it's being brought to you in a way that hopefully you will enjoy, a way that you will believe, and a way that will give you all the affirmation that you need to know that the good guys, patriots, are in control. Know that I've been working hand in glove, as I and many other super soldiers have been for quite some time, against evil interdimensional forces. And we are fighting for life. We are fighting for good. We are at war. Not everything is going to be clean. This scare is a necessary event. Do you trust the military? I hope so, because we're about to tell you everything. Do you trust the chain of command? I hope so. They're the ones that asked me to step forward. Believe me, it took a lot of poking and prodding for me to come forward and say all this stuff. You have no idea. Have faith. We are in control. Patriots, Patriots Day. Have faith. You were chosen for a reason. If you're watching this video, it didn't make it into your feed on accident. Okay? You are being provided the highest level of intel to ever be dropped publicly in the history of the world. So use it. Protect and comfort those around you. Because where we go one, we go all, baby. So why am I able to do this? Well, first of all, the reason why I'm able to do this is because I actually have all these top secret clearances, but I have not signed any non-disclosure agreements. So because this is warfare, because the goal of this war is to get full disclosure out to the people, to get these cures out to the people, to disentangle ourselves from this globalist cabal, then this is the way that we're going to do it. so because I haven't signed any non-disclosure agreements, but because I have all these above top secret clearances, because I've been a part of the Super Soldier program for quite some time, and because I'm a 5-star admiral, I'm able to release all of this information to the public without any negative legal ramifications, which is not something that can be said for my colleagues, for the other people within the military that have signed non-disclosure agreements and have gained these ranks that they've gained, generals, colonels, admirals, etc., after decades of military service. Whereas my type of military service was something else entirely. So what was my type of military service? Well, my type of military service was regarding the use of 1, plant medicines, 2, the use of yogic shamanic techniques regarding the awakening of the Kundalini energy and the opening of the third eye, and 3, the harmonic balancing of the chakras and the resonance patterns within the spirit or the soul, and doing this again and again and again, reaching higher and higher states of consciousness that go beyond the physical body. Now, because I have developed my Kundalini awakening and my chakras into these higher dimensional levels, I'm actually able to affect the quantum hologram, which is based off of all these invisible frequencies of light, much more drastically than, say, the quote-unquote average person. Just like all the other super soldiers are also able to affect the quantum hologram in this same way, okay? But from what I understand, my abilities are of another level. And that's also part of the reason why I'm able to come forward and why I'm able to say all this, why I'm able to do this. Because I'm in a very, very unique position. We've worked it out where if this happens, if I step forward, if X, Y, and Z is said, then hopefully that will give enough information and inspiration to individuals within the Q community to awaken to their true potential, for people to really begin to grasp what the human spirit is capable of, what the mind is capable of, their true potential, and like unlock the potential of their brain. We're talking about not just people having the ability to raise their IQs, but people having the ability to raise the frequency of their consciousness into these higher dimensions, and thusly keep our planet safe on like a long-term basis against any lower evil other dimensional forces. So this isn't so much about me as much as it's about the message that I'm bringing you. It's about this message that I'm bringing you, and hopefully you will hear it and believe it, and thus begin to believe in yourself so much more, in your own human abilities, your own spiritual abilities to affect reality, to create reality. So as I said before, Jack Kirby was a CIA agent. He was giving us soft disclosure when he talked about superheroes and supervillains. These superheroes, these supervillains act almost like positive and negative charges within the multiverse itself, within the multiple realities that exist, within the multiple timelines that exist, positive and negative, creative and destructive, life-filled and death-filled. And where these things also like overlap and interlace and stuff like that. So part of the reason why they choose certain individuals for this type of a program is because of their ability to recognize patterns. And we're not just talking about like the use of words or things like writing and stuff like that. We're talking about things beyond the use of words. We're talking about understanding concepts. We're talking about recognizing patterns in a way that goes beyond the use of words and into like an intuitive, abstract level of comprehension of reality. Because we have been taught that, you know, to develop the rational or the logical aspects to our mind and to ignore the abstract or to ignore the intuitive. But in order to have a real whole view of reality, you need both of these things working in harmonic unison to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. You know, I mean, it's like walking around with one eye. You don't have the same depth perception as if you use both eyes, okay? So if you end up realizing that most people are walking around reality with an eye covered, that most people are just focusing on a single aspect of pattern recognition, then we realize how we can why we've created such a dystopia, because we aren't living balanced within ourselves. So these individuals, these super soldiers, are able to recognize patterns that go beyond the use of words. In other words, they're able to discern real information from misinformation and disinformation. They're able to recognize the patterns in the intuitive as well as the logical, which means that they have a clearer view of reality, making them a statistical anomaly, an even greater statistical anomaly. Now, with that said, part of the reason why I was chosen for this is because very early on when they recruited me for this, because usually with this type of stuff, you're recruited very, very early on from when you're like a kid. When I was a kid, I had deja vu all the time. And a lot of the time I would have deja vu based off of dreams that I had had previously. And what I would tell myself is like in the dream is like, okay, if I have this as a deja vu, that means first of all, I can see the future. Second of all, that means that there's these other abilities that human beings have that you know, psychic abilities that we have been told we don't have. That also means that, you know, this idea of having these abilities is a reality, that you know, I can see the future, I can do this type of stuff. And then I would have it as a deja vu. And it's like, whoa. So when that happens a lot, when that happens enough, eventually you start recognizing the pattern and going, okay, so this is legit, this is real. This whole idea of dreams working in conjunction with waking reality, and these two things kind of like the yin and the yang of the universe and of consciousness, this idea really began to take hold, and I began to see how I was able to create reality so long as I followed my heart, or so long as I followed this destiny that I knew deep down had something to do with these deja vus. Because within these deja vus, I would always have this vibe of, and all of this stuff, ability to see the future, having these abilities, it means that I have some sort of a destiny. I'm supposed to like use this somehow. I don't understand, but I'm supposed to use it somehow. Then I started having dreams of moving things with my mind and flying around and all sorts of stuff. So life became very, very interesting, but also the patterns became very clear. And I'm talking from a very early age. So with that said, this idea of remembering who you were before you were born, this idea of remembering that where you came from as like a soul is actually not anything new. This thing I spoke of earlier, that I remember where I came from, this is where we're getting into that. In ancient Egypt, they actually got this stuff down to a science where they used like the electromagnetic ley lines of the earth, the pyramids, and the frequencies of energy within them, in combination with things like psychoactive plants, shamanic ceremonies during specific times, specific days, at specific locations, and star alignments, stuff like that. Also the combination of things like monoatomic gold and high frequency metals. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into this. So the ancient Egyptians actually, and the Buddhists, ancient Buddhists and Tibetans, this idea of reincarnation is all over the globe. But in particular, the ancient Egyptians got it down to a science to where they were actually able to expand their consciousness to the highest possible octaves, like what I showed you earlier, and beyond. And do so consciously, so that when it is that they quote unquote died in the physical world, they were able to take all of this understanding, all of this energy, all of this information they accumulated, and bring it back with them into a new body, into a new tool, essentially, a new hardware system with all of that information. So this idea of reincarnation and remembering where you came from is nothing new. It's ancient Egyptian. It goes, you know, bodhisattvas in Asia. They talk about this in the Vedas, and I mean, this is ancient Indian stuff too. This idea of reincarnation is also something that I think many Native American cultures speak of, as is the use of certain psychoactive plants. So yes, we're going to get into psychoactive plants. Yes, this may be controversial for some people because most people don't understand that these are actually tools. And if you know how to use these tools of mind or tools of consciousness, you can actually really grow spiritually. So there was a time when I was around 13 years old, after all this stuff with these deja vus and these dreams and recognizing these patterns and all that, around 13 years old. Well, I'll say this, during this time of all these deja vus, I was also questioning a lot, like, what is God? What is reality? Why am I here? What is going on? What is happening to me? Why is this happening? What is the soul? What is life? What is death? All of these questions that most people either allow religions to answer for them or just kind of think that they will never find the answers to. I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And then around 13 years old, I had a experience with a friend of mine where I got really, 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 really high, so high that I had an out-of-body experience where I actually like realized that I was my soul, that I was this field of energy as opposed to my physical body. And I saw everything around me as though it was alien, as though I was on an alien world. My friend looked like an alien. His dog looked like an alien. My hands, I looked like an alien. The whole planet looked alien. It looked like I was seeing everything for the first time. I saw energy moving and pulsating and waving through every fabric of space and every dimension, okay? And I was so mind blown that I was just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. I wasn't afraid at all. I thought, oh, finally, I got an answer to all of these questions that I've been asking. I basically understood everything in the universe without being able to articulate any of it verbally. That's why I was laughing. So, with that said, I had this amazing and incredible experience, and that awoke something in me. It awakened something in me. It woke something up in me that has been exponentially growing ever since. Then around age 17, Barack Obama, around my age 17, Barack Obama was running for the Senate. And I had a vision of the future regarding Barack Obama running for the presidency in 2008 and winning again in 2012. I also had a vision that in the same vision that Hillary Clinton was the prostitute of Babylon riding the Scarlet Beast, and that she was going to run for the presidency in 2016 and she was going to lose. Okay, so I had a vision basically that Barack Obama was the quote unquote beast or the Antichrist from Revelations. In the same vision, I also had the vision that Francis Arinze was going to be the false prophet because he was talking about getting along with the Muslim world, yada, yada, yada. And part of the reason why I believed that Barack Obama was the Antichrist was, first of all, I remembered him from before I was born. I remembered seeing his face before I was born and knowing like, oh, there's a red flag right there. Okay. Secondly, I discerned the numbers of his name. Barack Hussein Obama is 18 letters long, 6 + 6 + 6. Okay. And I correlated the fact that the United States was invading these Islamic countries, these Middle Eastern countries, as so many ancient empires have before in history. And that Obama, the Middle East, this Francis Arinze possibly being the Pope, and all this stuff was in my vision, as was Hillary Clinton being the prostitute of Babylon. I also would have deja vu after deja vu with these revelations, with these like aha moments where I had these visions. So that made me an even greater statistical anomaly because I was seeing the timeline before it actually happened. I was gaining all this data that was already in the field before it ever actually accumulated or became a physical reality. So after this, I joined the Navy. And when I was in the Navy, when I was in high school with all my friends, with all my family, you can ask anybody. I was telling people Barack Obama's the Antichrist. The Illuminati, the cabal, then you understand, oh no, he most certainly fulfilled that role, no problem. Okay, and why didn't Francis Arinze become the Pope? Well, we'll get to in a little bit. But I think that when I started spreading this word about Barack Obama being the Antichrist, about Hillary Clinton going to lose the election, and that everything is going to change after that, and you know, like, long story short, I just spammed it. Once I had this vision, once I understood what may very well happen, I felt like I had a responsibility to tell people, because I couldn't just allow the Armageddon from the Bible to just happen. If I saw it and I could tell everybody, hey, guess what? This is what I saw. We need to watch out for this guy. You know, I figured I had an obligation. So while I was in the Navy, interestingly enough, is when I discovered the plant medicine that I still use to this day. It is a sacred cactus known to the Peruvians for thousands of years to be sacred, and it has been used for thousands of years without any sort of ill effects, you know, no brain damage, no cancer, no madness, nothing like that. All right. So while I was in the Navy, I found this medicine, and the first time I ever did this medicine, I saw this movie in the store and was like, oh, deja vu, huh? Interesting. I have deja vu all the time. I think I'll check it out. So I checked this movie out, and it turns out that this is a movie about Denzel Washington, who is a ATF like detective that ends up getting like recruited short time by like a top secret government agency who has what we all know as looking glass technology, or the ability to look 4 days in the past and basically try to find a terrorist that blew up a Navy ferry. So a ferry as in like a ferry full of people, you know, families, et cetera, et cetera. Denzel Washington is like a detective that is investigating this terrorist that is played by Jim Caviezel, who also played Jesus, by the way, in Passion of the Christ, which had a huge influence on me. Anyway, case in point, Denzel Washington and this crew use this technology to look back 4 days and find out who this terrorist is that blew up this ferry, this Navy ferry that had all these families and sailors on it. Okay, so then Denzel Washington and this crew end up tracking the guy down. They put him through an interview process. There's all sorts of stuff I could go into with that. I'm just not going to go into it. Long story short, Denzel Washington's like, well, look, we got the guy, but why don't we just go back and try and save the girl that he used to like kidnap and take her van and all that stuff? Why don't we try to change the timeline, basically? And most of the crew ain't up for it, but there's one guy that is, and he decides to send Denzel Washington back in time, where he ends up saving this woman's life and messing up this terrorist guy's plans. And the whole idea is this woman's wondering, like, how are you doing all this? How do you know all this? How is it that you are saving me? What is going on? And Denzel Washington says, what if you had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they would never believe you? And her answer is, I'd try. And spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, Denzel Washington ends up, stopping the ferry from being blown up, and by sacrificing himself and blowing up with the bomb in the river instead, and ends up saving this woman's life. And, because he went back in time, the self that went back in time died, but the self that was a part of this changed timeline was still there. And he ends up coming up to her and introducing himself, and she went through all this with him, and was like, oh my God, how are you still alive? And she asked him, what if you had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they'd never believe you? And his answer is, I'd try. So with that said, I had to kind of discern here, and it took me a long time. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't just get it right away. That's not quite how this type of stuff works when it comes to the super soldier program stuff. They give you breadcrumbs and pieces, kind of like what happened with the Q movement. They give you breadcrumbs and pieces throughout your entire life, that when the time comes, these things are meant to be like activated. These things are meant to be like, okay, now you can look, now you can see behind you. Okay. And then all these pieces get put into play, and it ends up helping you to understand what is actually going on. So long story short here, they saw that I was basically the use of looking glass technology to get this information about this apocalyptic timeline had actually gotten through to one of their super soldiers. Okay, it actually got through. Like, the plan that they had worked. There was somebody that actually got all this stuff and was like, oh my God, no, we have to affect the timeline. We have to tell somebody. We have to do something. Okay, and this made me an even greater statistical anomaly. Besides all the deja vu, besides the fact that I had this out-of-body experience and have this ability to, experience life beyond the flesh. Aside from including the fact that I had all this vision about Barack Obama, and I'm going around telling everybody all this stuff about, he's the Antichrist and the end times are coming and all this other stuff. Okay, all that made me an even greater statistical anomaly, which affected the timeline in an even greater way. So with that said, as my awareness, as my chakras became more balanced, as my awareness grew and grew and grew throughout all this process of being in the super soldier program, I began to have more and more and more of an effect on the timelines. Okay, and this, like I said, isn't just me. This is all super soldiers. But if you can understand what happened to me, then you can understand what's happened to a lot of people, and you can understand how cool this stuff really is, and how awesome this whole process actually can be. So as my frequency was raised, they began to help me after this whole process. I got out of the Navy. I started using my medicine again, the stuff I found while I was in the Navy. I started doing things like breathing techniques, shamanic techniques. I started doing things like yoga or Tai Chi or something along those lines. And I began to raise my frequency. And eventually it got to a point where I raised my frequency so high that I realized that things like the Earth and the sun and the galaxy, or the black hole at the center of the galaxy, were like harmonic octaves or consciousness anchors that I could like branch to with my awareness, okay, with my electromagnetic field that surrounded my body. So I began to do this, and I began to develop this ability to get in tune with the sun, or get in tune with the galaxy or the Earth or whatever. Basically, understanding of frequencies. It's like Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So this ended up affecting my DNA quite a lot. My DNA began to evolve more and more and more. More of it began to be activated, and I began to be able to channel higher and higher frequencies or octaves of consciousness and self-awareness. So I started really grasping this whole notion of the interconnectivity of the entire universe, of the idea that everything is technically a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, that we call God consciousness or the soul, and that all of these things, whether it be atoms, planets, stars, galaxies, universes, multiverses, they're all like harmonic octaves in reality. So then I began to use these shamanic breathing techniques and yada, yada, yada to actually fly to the sun. And I have walked across the surface of the sun. I have seen events that are so tiny, so fast, that they could hardly be said to have occurred at all. Trust me, we all have this capability. It's just along the way, I believed in myself. I believed in these abilities that I had. I believed in myself so much that I was willing to take a step into the unknown with faith in God, that there would be something there. It's like what Gandhi said, God gives us just enough light to see a step in front of us. But in our ignorance, we want to see 10 steps ahead. And we look up and we feel lost in the dark, when all we have to do is just focus on the one step right in front of us. So for me, that one step right in front of me was the use of these plant medicines, the use of these breathing techniques, the use of these interdimensional gateways, essentially, what we call them, planets or stars or whatever, to grow my consciousness, or to grow the ability that I had to be in tune with reality. So I started flying to the sun. I walked across the surface of the sun. I just started doing all sorts of stuff. And it was shortly after this, that the movie Watchmen came out, which, if you understand the way that these individuals are using media to communicate concepts that are beyond words, in particular to specific individuals, then you can really begin to grasp how this whole MK Ultra monarch type program works. That it can either be used to confine a mind or to liberate one, to either trap a mind in fear or liberate a mind through love. So this was a liberation of my mind through love. When I started walking across the surface of the sun and having all these abilities, seeing reality in this hyperdimensional sense and all that stuff, this movie came out, and for me, this was like huge at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I see the pattern, just like I had seen the pattern throughout my entire life. But these were all like breadcrumbs, you guys. And while at the time it did confirm a lot, it helped to confirm a whole lot more later, after all these things had built up for me. So at the time, they had recruited me into their group of super soldiers, which was actually relatively small at that time. And they basically were recognizing, oh, holy shit, Jake, you walked across the surface of the sun, dude. How did you do that? And I was like, I don't know. It's just, I just did it, I guess. I'm just a guy that figured some stuff out. I was like, I wonder if that'll work. And then it worked. And I was like, oh, hey, it worked. How about that? So this idea of creating a super soldier is actually nothing new. This idea of using MK Ultra monarch type mental programming, however, to help people is something I'm sure that is new for you. Yes, this stuff can be and has been used to control minds and associate individuals with negative timelines. Okay, that is just a fact. However, there are other aspects of the military-industrial complex or the intelligence agencies or whatever that have chosen to use this technology to help certain individuals become all they possibly can be, to be their quote-unquote highest self, okay, their highest frequency, to embody their true destiny, their true highest self, to basically regain and reclaim their sovereignty. The movie The Men Who Stare at Goats makes a fun of a lot of this stuff, but if you understand that this is actually a huge communication here, letting people know, hey, yeah, we've been working with this stuff for a while, and guess what? Yes, you can weaponize the consciousness of a human being. You can weaponize psychic abilities, okay, remote viewing, things of this nature. It's all real, you guys. So they've been helping me for quite some time to understand the way that quantum physics works in combination with celestial mechanics, how all this stuff interlaces through things that are called like tensor networks and quantum entanglement in a way that creates multiple different universes, multiple different timelines based off of varying frequencies and based off of certain statistical anomalies being expressed within the ecosystems. That being said, because things have gotten so out of balance, because things have gotten basically so bad and everything got so destroyed and like ecosystems and like whole populations of people and plants and animals and all, you know, genocides, all this stuff, there had to be some way of balancing this stuff out. There had to be a way of creating balance on the other end. So all of this chaos, death, decay, destruction is a form of a statistical anomaly. Okay, and in order for reality to be balanced out, there had to be another statistical anomaly on the other end. And that's what the military has been fighting for and working toward for quite some time. So through the use of non-local entanglement, through the use of understanding quantum mechanics and celestial mechanics and how these things work together like a harmonic resonance pattern to create a quantum hologram, they have helped me to learn how to use these abilities that I had to affect the quantum hologram in a conscious and strategic way. Essentially, they've helped me to use the electromagnetic pulse that I have, the high frequency multi-level chakra pulse that I have in a way that is conscious and that helps to get rid of the enemy. So with that said, it was when Barack Obama became president in 2008 and started doing his things in 2009, 2010, 2011, we started pushing these bills of the healthcare bill and of the 5,000-page financial bill and all this stuff, like the corruption. I was just so sick and tired of it. And because I was, you know, kind of wondering, I wonder what will happen if I do this, you know, because I was wondering if maybe I was being watched. And even if I wasn't, I was like, well, now they're going to watch me now. Watch this. So what I did is I got sick and tired of all this stuff with Barack Obama and his corrupt administration. I truly do and did at the time believe that he is the Antichrist, that he was here to bring essentially the Armageddon, the end of the world type scenario, and Hillary Clinton was supposed to come in afterward and do the same dang thing, if not worse. Okay, and I believe that that timeline was affected quite drastically, and that was part of this super soldier mission that I have. That being said, when I got fed up with all this stuff and I figured I was being watched, I was like, well, if I wasn't being watched before, I am gonna now. So I got on my computer and I wrote up two things. One was a Declaration of Independence. Why did I write a Declaration of Independence? Because I looked to what the founders did when the founders were like, hey, this stuff with Britain sucks. It's corrupt. These people are evil. This is awful. I don't want anything to do with this. How are we going to secede? How are we going to get away from the monarchy that is like legit? Well, what we'll do is we'll write down all the things that the monarchy is doing that is obviously wrong to anybody that is reading this document. They'll look at that and go, oh my God, really? That's what you were dealing with? Oh my God, wow. And then we'll have everybody sign it that says, no, we're declaring independence. We're seceding from the monarchy. We're not doing this anymore. So I decided, hey, let's just write another Declaration of Independence. Let's list all the things that the government is doing wrong, whether it be the taxation, whether it be the IRS, whether it be the healthcare bill, whether it be the corruption, whether it be the 5,000-page financial bill, you name it. I listed out so many different things. The fact that like it's done, the government's done so many things that are unconstitutional. The way they've taken states' rights, there were so many things that I wrote on this Declaration of Independence. And I also wrote a declaration of nonviolent war where I basically said, look, I used the words treason and sedition quite a lot because I knew that these things would get the attention of the higher ups. Because when you do that, your computer actually, like, there's these flag words basically that when you start writing stuff like that, your computer like sends a signal somewhere else, and your screen pops up on somebody else's screen and an intelligence agency, and they're like, hey, what are you doing there, buddy? So I kind of knew that at the time, and so I started writing this Declaration of Nonviolent War, saying that, basically doing the whole Gandhi thing, like, no, I'm not cooperating with an evil system. This is evil. This is wrong. This is corrupt. This is this, and this is what I'm going to do. And this was my plan, was to send this Declaration of Nonviolent War, to send this Declaration of Independence to like 30 some odd media outlets, whether it be talk radio, whether it be network television, whether it be private radio stations, or you name it. I had a bunch of different locations. I was going to overnight mail all this stuff. That way, as soon as people opened the letter and read it, they would have to do something with the information due to the nature of the information itself. This was my plan. Unfortunately, I also had the plan of walking from Phoenix to Washington, D.C. as a march against this evil. And unfortunately, it was going to take like, $5,000 to get all the supplies, to mail all this stuff out. And I didn't really have $5,000 at the time. So I kind of just sat back and watched. I wrote all this stuff up. I also wrote in a letter to the elites in the same day or same night. And the letter to the elites was basically like, look, I know there's certain people in your family that do this stuff, and you don't want anything to do with that. I know there's good people in these families, and when the hammer comes down, it will come down on you if you don't step up and do something about what it is that your family is doing all over the globe. You're going to go down with them, or you can help to take them down now and early, and we can all live in a better world. And so little did I know, people were watching, and I ended up actually causing quite the stir in the deep state, especially amongst the constitutionalist Christians, which each of them in their own heart and in their own mind signed my little Declaration of Independence, and we all began to work toward this idea, whether some of us were conscious of it or not. What really gave me hope, though, was after, like seriously, not even a month or two after I wrote this Declaration of Nonviolent War, this Declaration of Independence, this letter to the elites, the movie Avatar came out. And in Avatar, the main character's name is Jake. They like recruit him to become one of the people, or basically like a super soldier. And the whole thing in the movie is, I see you. Like I see into you, like dude, fuck yeah, man. And also Michelle Rodriguez is in this movie, and I have always had a thing for Michelle Rodriguez, kind of my girl. This right here, this whole Jake riding this massive beast, being the Muktakto, I think is what they call him. This is also a calm, and this is what I think is like one of the funniest things. This is how I know, like there's actually so many little things that are in this movie that kind of signal that they were watching me, that I was kind of like, I was really intrigued, but also just like a little spooked about it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, So anyway, I love this calm here of like, he figured he was the biggest thing in the sky. Why would he look up? And it's because what I did is I realized, okay, this is going to go to the top. If I do this, and this, if I say this, and this, and if I do this, and this, it'll go to the top. And what actually inspired this little action of mine more than anything was V for Vendetta. And when he flicks the dominoes and the whole idea of knowing the enemy better than they know themselves and all that stuff. Okay, like I was like, okay, so what is something that I could do without having any money, without having any sort of pull in the media, without having any sort of idea of how to create this type of a change that I'm looking for, that everybody is looking for, from sitting here with no money, yada, yada. How do I do that? So this is my plan. And it freaking worked. I was so blown away. So they continued to help me. They continued to help me along this shamanic journey of mine. And I really began to take it seriously. When I really began to take it seriously is when everything changed. You know, this idea of there being knowledge beyond words is so true. It is so true. And it is this knowledge beyond words that the Native American medicine men, the chiefs, that all Aboriginal leaders have understood and have grasped. All shamanic lineages have understood and grasped. And that is the interconnectivity to nature, to life itself, and the way that we're all one soul, we're all one heart, we're all one mind. And this understanding of the spiritual nature to reality, to this idea of concepts that go beyond the use of words, deep, deep, deep stuff, you guys. This is stuff that I really began to start getting into, and like understanding things like on another level. And so I started to write book. I started to do like protests where I would go out in this get up here with my war bonnet and my staff, and on my staff I had a sign that said, you know, where will we be 7 generations from now, which is actually a Native American thing where they say we don't do anything unless we think of 7 generations ahead of ourselves. How would this affect 7 generations ahead of ourselves? So after all of this stuff, after really getting into this whole shamanic thing, being basically one of the people, okay, and really getting into nature and to the frequencies of life itself, and to this idea of information beyond words and on the like a soul level, et cetera, and doing these protests. I also wrote a book about Bigfoot and the Yeti. That's when I started seeing, first of all, in the stores, there was the 7th generation in stores. I was like, oh my gosh, like that happened after I did what I did. And I was like, no, really? How sweet. And then once I started writing this book about Bigfoot and the Yeti, I started seeing these Bigfoot stickers everywhere. And then I saw this brand new company come out called Yeti. It said wildly stronger, keep ice longer. And I was like, hold on a second. Are they basically saying like, yes, you are getting it. Nothing is going over your head. You're getting everything that we're leaving this trail of breadcrumbs for you. Just keep going, keep expanding your consciousness, keep becoming a statistical anomaly. Because as I continued down this path, not only was I consuming certain like plants, whether that be psychoactive and non-psychoactive, I was developing a relationship with plants and with nature. I was also working with children. I was trying to help the traumatized kids in the group home system. Okay, so that, believe me when I say, that's a very, very, very tough job. And I did it for 5.5, almost 6 years. Okay, so that also makes one a greater statistical anomaly, is to suffer all that abuse and continue to be loving and kind. That's why Christ was such a statistical anomaly, you see. Anyway, so I continued to make myself a statistical anomaly by writing my book, by doing these retreats into nature, by consuming my plant medicine, by working with children, by having these experiences, these like beyond the flesh experiences where like I'm cruising around, flying around the solar system, going to the sun, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Seeing all these patterns in the media and like these movies, and I go, oh my gosh. Okay. And then is right around the time that they dropped this whole was after I reached this certain level of development. That's when this whole thing came out, and I really began to understand what was actually going on. And they pretty much told me everything. And after that, after like I understood, after I really understood the way that the whole global system was basically just a satanic that had infiltrated like the highest levels of governments and corporations and banking all over the world, I was like, oh my God. They told me all that, and I also began to look deeper and deeper and deeper into ancient cultures, into the ancient grid system, the pyramids, the stone structures, the obelisks, the stone circles, etc. I began to look into things like sacred geometry and stuff like that. I basically began to look into the mysteries of life from this shamanic perspective that I had that was beyond words. Okay, and I began to grasp this whole idea of the structure of space-time and the dimensions based off of shape and geometry and energy cycling and all that stuff. I began to grasp it in a whole new way. I also began to grasp how the law could either be corrupted or it could be written in a way that would be advantageous for the people, either based off of the law of one or the law of the less than 1%. So I put this whole Rubik's Cube together as well. Okay, I put how the ancients were using these stone structures, these stone circles as like vehicles for consciousness and stuff like that. I understood how all that stuff was working. So with all that said, around 2016, I put all of this stuff together. I put it all together. I put the conceptual Rubik's Cube together in a way where I understood the following. First of all, that the whole global system was based off of a global banking cartel, which was using debt and the monopolization of resources within the countries that were in debt to not only exploit the populations, but also to traffic human beings, to basically be like parasites on these continents or in these countries, as well as monopolize all of the resources and control all the minds of the people. I also realized that aside from these socioeconomic pyramids that were all corrupt, these socioeconomic pyramids were almost like mirrors for these satanic magical pyramids of individuals that were occupying the mirror opposite place within these satanic hierarchies and these socioeconomic hierarchies. And I understood that there were certain individuals who were practicing black Set magic from ancient Egypt, the ancient Egyptian mystery school of Set, that basically is like chaos magic, that is parasitism, that is, you know, this whole blood drinking thing. And I recognized that there were certain individuals that were at the tops of these pyramids. Okay, and these individuals have been a part of lineages that for thousands of years, and I mean it, thousands of years, have been invoking dark, evil, occultic forces onto this planet like children playing with fire, thinking that they know what it is that they're doing because they want power and they want their wealth to grow and grow and grow. They wish for their power to grow higher. Okay, these are individuals that are basically negative timelines. They're associated with negative timelines. These individuals like embody evil, and they send Gaia's children, innocent children, to be sacrificed to these evil occultic forces, whether it be Satan, Lucifer, or the archons, whatever, you name it. So I understood in like a flash. I kind of got it all. I mean, it all kind of accumulated, and I think this was the moment that I was quote unquote activated. Okay, it was when all of this stuff just like clicked. Once the Rubik's Cube was put together, it was like, boom, oh my gosh, I've got it. The shamanism thing was like huge too, and how essentially these individuals were practicing evil shamanism. Okay? So I kind of Rain Man did a little bit here, and I understood that these individuals were basically creating a bunch of negative alternate timelines based off of these parasitic beings coming onto the planet and siphoning the life of the people, of the children, etc. I kind of grasped the idea that the whole global socioeconomic system wasn't corrupt, but it was just corrupted in key places. That way the corruption could, like, you know, run almost like a belt through this system. Okay? And I understood how this was essentially moving the whole population toward negative timelines, toward like an Armageddon scenario through this rigged game that they were playing. I also understood that there were other super soldiers. I really grasped that there were these other people that were trying to stop all this from happening in the etheric realm, in the ether, okay, in the levels of consciousness above the body, all right? And when I understood all of this, when I really grasped all of it, I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat a bunch of mushrooms. I'm going to get this extremely, extremely high frequency, and then I'm going to try something. and we're going to see what happens. And if it works, then cool. And if it doesn't, well, worth a shot, right? So what I did is I got in a really, really deep trance state I got into a really deep trance state, and I did a mantra. I did a mantra for about 20 minutes. And in this mantra, I flew to the sun, and I like pulled some levers. I, pushed some buttons, and basically I changed the quantum entanglement of the entire solar system by doing this, by creating and changing, basically by putting all this stuff together and then creating a feeling within myself that understood all these things that was in the sun based off of, the interconnection of everything and all the harmonics and all that stuff. So I flew to the sun, I changed my vibe, I ended up using the sun almost like a weapon and sending off a massive solar flare that took out all of the craft, all the negative ET craft, all these Satanists and their anti-gravity, mind control type craft, which you have to watch my other videos to know what I'm talking about, and take all of those things out. And in the process, I also kept safe all of the aircraft that I knew were not the enemy, that I knew were our own, okay? And in the process, I might as well have done the whole thing at the end of Endgame, the snap of the fingers. All right, now, for those of you that haven't seen some of my other videos, I'm able to expand my consciousness to like the size of the universe. I'm able to shrink it down to the size of an atom. I've walked across the surface of the sun. I've witnessed events that are so tiny and so fast they could hardly be said to have occurred at all. And it is this range in ability of expansion or contraction of my consciousness that gives me the ability to affect the quantum hologram through non-local entanglement, alter the timelines. Essentially what I did is I used all of the statistical anomaly that I had been building up, all of that energy that I had been building up for this whole time, and once I put it all together, it was almost like I'm just going to use it now. And it changed everything. How I know it changed everything, and this is, so afterward I was like, okay, if that worked, which I hope it did, if that worked, I'm going to see if there's any signs. What would happen? What's going to happen? So I go out, I take my dog out to the dog park, and I'm letting him, run around and stuff. And I look off into the distance. It's dusk. I look off in the distance, and it's starting to get dark, and I see this blue sphere like shoot down like a comet into the desert about 50 miles away from me. And I'm like, whoa, that was cool. And then a Black Hawk helicopter comes zooming right over my head and over to the place where the blue thing flew to the ground. And I was like, who been that, eh? Well, a response less than an hour, and that's what I see. All right, duly noted. Okay. Then the next day, I got on the internet and I saw this thing about the Hopi Blue Star Kachina prophecy happening now. Is the blue Kachina here? I was like, what? And then I started listening to and hearing about the blue avians from Corey Good, and the idea that there's this solar flash that was supposed to take out all these negative entities and yada yada yada. All right, and I was like, it worked! It worked! Oh my gosh, it fucking worked! How about that? It worked! I knew it worked. I mean, at the time I could feel it. I knew it worked. I was just like, well, let's see what happens. So then I started seeing all sorts of stuff in movies that was making me go, really? And one of them was, first of all, this whole thing in the Doctor Strange movie, which, oh my God, Doctor Strange is about as psychedelic as it gets, okay? You are, in fact, and I didn't mean to brag, you're dealing with a master of the mystical arts, you guys. That's essentially part of the reason, not the whole reason, it's part of the reason why I'm a 5-star admiral, because I've like reached this level, okay? And when I saw this in Suicide Squad, of like the use of employing a witch, make things disappear, floating up in the air type witch, in the military, I was like, they are talking to me. And guys, let me tell you, I'm a shaman. I'm a shaman of light. I'm a shaman of love. I have no desire whatsoever for some sort of global cataclysm. That's actually quite the opposite. I've been fighting to keep things from like that from happening. Okay, this calm here in Suicide Squad, where the dude gets knifed in a fight and on the yard and just like blows everybody away, and it's like, yeah, what, you want some? That's kind of how it was after I did the whole mantra thing, and I knew that. I mean, right afterward, I got the vibe of it worked, first of all, and I was kind of like, yeah, what do y'all think of that, huh? Hey, very laddie. And this whole thing here with Moana, you guys, after I did this whole solar flash thing and all that, the military industrial complex, the good guys, the white hats, actually used psychotronic weaponry to contact me, and they said, hey, just from you to us, we want to say thank you. Just from us to you, I'm sorry. Just from us to you and everybody on our side, we want to say thank you. And the first thing that I'd ever said to them was, you're welcome. And that was where I left it. That was where I didn't say anything more after that. It was just totally friggin' hilarious. And in order to really enjoy life, you have to learn to understand God's sense of humor. So this whole idea of you're welcome in Maui, also I lasso the sun. You're welcome. Stretch your days and bring you fun. This whole idea of Moana making contact with like the ancestor spirits or her ancestors, you guys, most of you would not believe what it is that I've been through. Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. You'd say I was nuts. But it's true. This whole idea of the ancestors, this whole idea of like angelic realms, this whole idea of God being real and angels and demons and all that, it's real. Like, it's true. It's true. This idea of working with the ancestors for like healing and stuff like that, it's true. Idea of star knowledge, star gates, star beings, it's true. The Native Americans, the ancient ancestors, the Aborigines, they weren't insane. They weren't primitive. They were just on such a whole other spiritual level that they didn't need iPhones. They didn't need all this crap that we need to feel better about ourselves, because they realized that they were the most awesome and advanced tech in the universe. Now, another way that they were communicating with me through movies and television and stuff, or not television, but movies in particular certain movies that they knew I would watch, okay, is Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and Godzilla, King of the Monsters. They are observing Godzilla from a monarch base. Yes, this is a comm. They're saying yes, yes. And the whole idea in this movie with this whole base thing is they say, open the doors, let them know that we're not a threat. This is their way of saying, yes, we are communicating with you. Yes, this psychotronic weaponry that you're experiencing, this voice in your head, voice to skull technology, yeah, it's real. And yes, we're communicating with you. We are helping you. We are keeping you safe, believe it or not. Because there's all sorts of people on the other side. They're like, who just did that? Where are they? You know, and in some cases, some of them already kind of knew. This whole idea in the Men in Black International, the weaponizing of a star, okay, and a blue star in particular. And you guys, there was actually this time where, you know, I was meditating, you know, and we were kind of talking back and forth, and I was like, you know, why don't I try something? I mean, I'm able to create a solar flare. What if I were to just create a breeze in the Sahara and blow away a bunch of sand, see what's underneath it? We all know there's stuff underneath the sand. Let's see what's there, you know? So I used literally 1% of my ability and just created a large breeze, and I said, all right, let's see what happens, you know? And then it was like, I think it was like a couple of weeks later, they made me wait a while. This thing popped up about all of these buildings that were carved into stone just popping up in the desert. And in this movie, they used this weaponized star out in the middle of the Sahara, and they create this massive light cavern. So there's all sorts of comms here that were just so delightful for me, and really, really helped me to believe, first of all, yeah, hey man, you did do that. And secondly, how did you do that? So when I did do this, though, it actually got out. Eventually, it did get out who I was, where I was. And some of the evil satanic people started trying to like mess with me. Reason being, they saw me as a threat. I mean, I just took out a bunch of their ships, and in the process, I had already taken out a bunch of the tops or the heads of their little satanic organization, which also means I affect their global socioeconomic organization as well. So my friends in the military industrial complex kind of knew this was going to happen, but this was kind of the plan, was to activate me at a certain point, use this ability that I have, these psychic abilities beyond the flesh, and this statistical anomaly that I was creating in the timelines strategically to like send a shockwave to the other side. Okay. But they would eventually figure out where that shockwave came from, and they did. And in the process, they began to use their psychotronic weaponry, as well as, in some cases, their satanic, quote-unquote, psychic powers, to try to get me to kill myself. They told me that all I had to do was like kill my dog or choose one of my friends and family that would die, and then I could become one of them, and everything, all this stuff would go away. All the nights of being tortured or being told to eat my shit would go away. All these thoughts of kill yourself would go away. And I told them, go fuck yourself. You know, I'm not doing anything like that. My friends and family mean way more to me than any sort of money or friend. I mean, any money or fame ever could. So when they realized that they weren't going to get that out of me, they started saying, well, we're going to abduct you. We're going to use you for a satanic sacrifice. We're going to torture you. And I told them, go fuck yourself. You know, they said, well, we're going to have you, either you kill the children, or we're going to cut your heart open, and we're going to cut your stomach open and pull your heart out of your chest. And I said, well, then cut my fucking stomach open and pull my heart out of my chest, motherfucker. I don't care. I'm never harming a fucking child. And if any of you motherfuckers abduct me and put a knife in my hand, I'm going after whoever it is that put the knife in my hand. I don't care how many there are of you. Somebody's going to go down. So don't even try it. I'll bite your fucking jugular out. Okay? I was not fucking around. Forgive the language. All right? But that's actually how it went down. And of course, yeah, a portion of me was scared, but there was this other portion of me that was like, I'm not going to allow anyone or anything to make me feel fear or panic in a way that I don't have control over. So whenever they would say something like, well, we're going to come and get you, we're going to come and abduct you, we're waiting outside, I'd say, oh yeah, come on up. Come on up. Bring it on, bitch. What you got, motherfucker? Come inside, see what happened. And they never did. This was my burden to bear. My burden to bear. This is my cross to bear, you guys. I drew a line in the sand when I did what I did, and from that point on, it was like, get that guy, okay? And the thing is because of what it is that I did, because of the fact that I had actually magically battled a certain member of the Illuminati, last name is Rockefeller. Because I won in that, because I also won against people, stuff like that, and took their wands away. Because I ended up beating so many of these people that were at the tippy top of these evil pyramids, technically, I couldn't be touched because I was at the top. In these communities, if you beat these individuals, then you take their place in the pyramid. You take their place in the magical pyramid, which basically means that I was at the highest levels of these evil satanic organizations by doing something like that. And then I began from the inside out, just like the Alliance was cleaning from the outside in, I began to clean from the inside out, and they began to clean from the outside in. Okay. Basically, what happened is that before, if the Alliance would have gone after all the people that were below Mr. Certain Someone, then Mr. Certain Someone would have had all of those Alliance members killed because they were going after the Cabal. But because I was like, oh no, please come and get them. Come and fucking get them, please. They knew they didn't have anything to worry about. They knew there wouldn't be a hit put out on them if they came in and arrested these two folks. So I bared this burden because I knew the evil we were fighting, And I'm not the only one to bear this burden. I would like to make that very clear too. There are all sorts of super soldiers, all sorts of psychic soldiers that have been dealing with this shit too. Okay. And some of the stuff we've had to deal with, you guys, is enough to drive a person either insane or to suicide. So say what you will, this is a war. It's a spiritual war, and it's one of the hardest that can never be fought. But eventually what ended up happening, more than anything, what ended up happening is after a while, after the deep state began to get cleaned and after a bunch of these people started to go down, the intensity of hatred toward me and toward the alliance started to dissipate. And once these evil people that were like below me and on the pyramid here began to realize, hold on a second, like, first of all, we have somebody on our hands that we don't even fully realize who, like, oh my gosh, hold on a second. This may very well be this person spoken of from prophecy. And I'll get into that I'll just get into it now. David Wilcock, one of the things that I came across in this research when I came across the whole thing about blue avians, when I came across this whole thing about the solar flash, was also David Wilcock. And David Wilcock was talking about the idea of this quote unquote Kalki avatar that was going to come at the end of the age, or the end of the Yuga. And they were going to bring what is called the Samvardhaka fire, or the Yuga fire, with them, that was going to exterminate and get rid of all of the evil, parasitic, lower dimensional ETs, or interdimensional beings. Okay, this individual, this Kalki avatar, would have the ability to make themselves the size of the universe or the size of an atom, the ability to fly around and do all sorts of stuff. He started listing all these abilities, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that's me. What? No, little old me. You gotta be kidding. And so it really took quite some time for me to kind of accept, like, no, like, this is all actually a part of an ancient prophecy that you didn't know anything about, that you just fulfilled, sir. And that's kind of a big deal there, even amongst the Satanists. Tell about that, eh? So eventually they kind of realized, okay, let's leave this guy alone. We're not going to kill him. He just, every time we try to do something, he does something back, and that we don't like that. It never works out well for us. So let's just stop doing that and let's see what he's got. And then eventually what they saw was that what I was proposing was heaven on earth, was infinite, free, clean energy, endless amounts of food, clean water, clean air, anti-gravity craft, the evolution of the species. And with that said, because of the fact that I practice shamanism, many of these people who consider themselves witches or warlocks or whatever looked at the real deal and was like, oh my gosh, not to say many of them aren't the real deal, which a lot of them are for certain, but this was on another level as far as they were concerned. And I didn't even know it. I was kind of just like doing my thing, you know. Yeah, I wonder if this will work. I wonder what will happen here. Anyway, so I actually remember a lot of my past lives. Some of the past lives I remember is I was a Taoist monk at one point. Tao as in T-A-O. I was a Taoist monk in one life. I was also a Mayan priest, like a really, really high level Mayan priest. Part of the reason why I think I wasn't so afraid of this whole idea of having my stomach cut open, my heart pulled out of my chest, and my head and arms cut off and all that stuff was because I lived a life, actually I lived many lives as a Mayan priest where that actually happened. And I think that's, you know, that may be part of the reason why I was kind of immune to that little spell that they tried to put on me, because they actually like did that in the ether. They did that to me. Like they sent the they sent the neurological pattern that was in somebody else's brain when that type of a thing happened to them, which they have, if you understand how this technology works, they have, and they sent that experience to my brain, that level of trauma to my brain. And no fear, nothing, just like, because I refused to be afraid. I was so angry more than anything. I was like, no, you're not going to make me afraid. Fuck you. And that was so much stronger. My free will, my human spirit was so much stronger than any sort of evil that they could lay on me. And that's how it is for every single one of you too. Every single one of you too. That's how it is for every single one of you too. Okay, is you have that same ability to oomph and to say okay, to push back, to not give in to fear. Everybody feels the fear. The question is, do you let the fear grow, or do you let your fear mentor your love, or do you let your love mentor your fear? So I've had many different lives. I am conscious of these lives. I've activated most of the DNA, most of the antenna in my DNA to access this information. I remember, you guys, I remember being an ancient Egyptian priest. I remember when Egypt was green, all green, a tropical paradise. Okay. I remember things that it's like, how do you remember that? I'm talking like before the flood type stuff, you know? How would I remember that? And it's because, ladies and gentlemen, I've activated the information that's already dormant in my DNA. I'm really nothing special. In all honesty, I'm the potential that everybody has. Everybody can do this. Everybody. And if you just, in all honesty, if you just watch a lot of my YouTube videos, a lot of the stuff of how I got here, a lot of the knowledge that helped to get me here is all in my YouTube videos. And yes, some of the videos are 3 hours, you know, sorry, get over it. You know, can't explain the universe, people, in 30 minutes. I mean, I guess you could. I have before, but yeah, anyway. Know when to fight, ladies and gentlemen. Avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. Know how to deceive the enemy. Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Know your strengths and weaknesses. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So when I flicked the domino with the whole, well, should I say when we flicked the domino with the whole Declaration of Nonviolent War and Declaration of Independence and all that stuff, when we flicked the domino with the snapping of the fingers when I was activated and all this stuff came, and we used this as an opportunity to affect the whole timeline and all that stuff. What that was the employing of a very, very useful technique where we allow the enemy to think that we are weak when actually we are strong. We lure them in, and then we show them how they were wrong. Okay, and it's actually the technique of a Mediterranean sea snake, where it like goes to the ground, it like to the bottom of the Mediterranean floor, and it pretends like it's injured or dead. A fish will come up and take a bite, and then like go away. Nothing happens. It comes up and take another bite, and nothing, go away. And then when it finally comes up and feels comfortable, the snake turns around and gets the fish. Okay, so for those of you that decided to put a hit out on me, that was a really bad idea, wasn't it? And for anybody that wants to bring these negative timelines, all you supervillains want to bring these negative timelines to Earth, you want to try to bring hell to Earth, well, I'll show you hell. You mocked my words for redemption. You saw my kindness as weakness. Well, now you're going to get the sharp end of the stick. Now you're getting the tip of the spear. Stay the course and trust the plan, ladies and gentlemen. Where we go one, we go all. We are affecting the timelines, not just myself, but all the super soldiers. And believe me, we are just one type of a power piece on this 4D chessboard. There are so many other different types of power pieces, and this is just one of our moves on this 4D chessboard, just one. We are taking these evil people, these Satanists, these all the stuff that we know and hate, they're all going down. They're all going to get them. That's just all there is to it. They will be taken there by special forces, and they will be held there until they die. And the other ones that committed some of the worst atrocities, will be sentenced to death by hanging. That's just all there is to it. Traitors hang. You only really need to hang mean bastards, but mean bastards you need to hang, right? So, for those of you that are still wondering, can I trust all this? Is this really like true? You know, this guy really like a five-star admiral? Is he really like Captain America? Like what is going on here? Did this really happen? Well, just to say, let's start with this. Isaac Cappy died on Route 66 in Arizona. And before he died, he said that he did something on the level of Judas Iscariot, okay, and the betrayal of Christ. And he died. Remember, he died on Route 66 in Arizona. There's also this gentleman in Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona, that is claiming to be Q and claiming that he has access to these like top secret levels of like tech and all that stuff at Luke Air Force Base. And why would he be able to take the picture of all these things and put them on the internet if it wasn't true? Okay, these, ladies and gentlemen, are arrows pointing to a certain location where I happen to live. Okay. Also, if you need more, in 2016, before Q ever came out, Independence Day came out, and this was one of the symbols in Independence Day. Okay, we had 20 years to prepare, so did they. Interesting, huh? Anyway, one of the main characters in Independence Day Resurgence is named Jake. When Jake is introduced into the movie, he is actually carrying a multi-trillion-dollar weapon. Okay, all right. Also, I told you, Michelle Rodriguez and I are kind of things, kind of my girl. You don't think that's true? I understand, but in the movie, the Fast and Furious 9, one of the main characters, the antagonist, Dom's brother, is named Jacob. And when I started coming out about how I have the ability to like expand my consciousness to like the size of the universe, or contract it to the size of an atom, when I started calling myself Captain America, the Secretary of the Navy stepped down and General Flynn started putting this on his Twitter banner. This was also made shortly after, this was made the Twitter banner for the White House. Look at how big this dude is. Okay. I understand that, this may not necessarily be what you were expecting. Wasn't what I was expecting. I never anticipated being able to say all this stuff. I'll tell you that right now. I was honestly planning on taking all this to my grave. And then they're like, hey, we need you to disclose, Jake. It's like, no, you're pulling my leg. There's no way. You guys don't want me to do that. They're like, actually, yeah, full disclosure. So, oh, really? Yeah. So, working hand in glove, you guys. Working hand in glove for quite some time to beat these evil interdimensional beings off the planet. Working hand in glove to affect the quantum hologram and to affect the collective mind of the species so that we can move forward toward a free energy, 0-point energy, anti-gravity, gold-based currency type system. A whole new socioeconomic system based off of symbiosis and synergy, based off of open source intelligence, and based off of these patents that for quite some time, whether they be medical or whatever, have been classified because they would be quote unquote disruptive to the economy. Well, now the economy is already disrupted thanks to this Chinese virus. So now's the perfect time to introduce this stuff and to restructure our economy in a better way. So this idea, the hero's journey being embodied, and all the stuff that any and every super soldier has gone through, in my case, all the stuff that I've gone through, and the fact that, these people are telling me that basically, yeah, dude, you're actually the Kalki avatar, and like this is the fire at the end of the Yuga, and you kind of did all this, and you did all of it without even knowing there was a prophecy about it. So it's kind of even more like, yeah, you're kind of that guy. And I'm like, really? No. Me? Come on now. I smoke way too much weed for that. and in all honesty, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I haven't always lived up to what I think their expectations were. But each and every time they've needed me, each and every time I've had to deliver, I have, and I've gone above and beyond. So there's a reason I'm still around, right? And part of it is because I make them laugh. So this idea of somebody like this like high level spiritual knowledge or something stepping forward and casting out evil forces and stuff like that, that also is nothing new. It's part of the hero's journey. Okay. In ancient Egypt, it was personified through Horus casting out Set or Satan. In the Bible, it's personified through Christ or Yeshua casting out Satan, when he was in the desert. What this is, you guys, is if you look into Hebrew mysticism and the Kabbalah and all that stuff, the Sephiroth is like the chakra system for the Hebrew tradition. Or the chakra system is the Indian thing. The 7 chakras with 7 chakras, etc. So this idea of divine emanation of source energy and soul force and all that stuff is not just local to India or to Buddhism. It's also in Hebrew mysticism. It's in every single culture, you guys. Some just have different ways of talking about it. That's really all it comes down to. Anyway, this is the Sephiroth. This is the Kipharoth. The Kipharoth is like the shell or the husk or like the past self of the Sephiroth. The Sephiroth is always creating itself anew. The Sephiroth is like the soul or the mind of God, the oneness of everything. And then it's almost like the Kipharoth is like the shell or the husk or like the physical matter that is being left behind in the wake of this spiritual oneness creating everything. And many of these Satanists worship the husk. They worship the flesh. They don't worship the spirit, you see? And that's why they have no problem creating all this pain, all this mass death, all this chaos, yada, yada, yada. Because as far as they're concerned, if we allow it to happen, then they should be allowed to do it. Well, not anymore, huh? So essentially, I kind of, long story short, they're basically saying that this kind of whole thing was personified through this snap of the finger thing I did, through this mantra, through all this stuff that we've been going through as a group of super soldiers, as like an Avengers team for quite some time. Okay, and we're finally on the winning end of this. We're finally on the opposition is losing so drastically that this never would have happened before. Like this is unprecedented. Okay, this is we're talking like global changes that are so monumental that they had to be kept under the surface so as to not cause panic. Okay, the goal here, ladies and gentlemen, is the creation of a new timeline. The goal here is to use this weaponized consciousness of a super soldier and of these interdimensional weapons, whether they be anti-gravity craft or psychotronic weapons or looking glass technology, time travel technology, whatever, using these things to create and preserve heaven on earth, to create and preserve a positive timeline that cannot be fucked with, that cannot be altered by the evil forces of Satan, okay? Evil forces of the universe itself, these quote-unquote super villains. So we're changing the timeline from one that is based off of parasitism and low frequencies of vibration, low parasitic socioeconomic and geopolitical systems, to high frequencies of symbiosis, synergy, the global governments not basically being tied together through corruption and blackmail, but rather liberated through this technology and the ability to have free energy and flying vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. We're basically talking about an elevation in the consciousness of the species. We're talking about people learning to live and be happy again, as opposed to being cogs in a soulless industrialist machine. So with that said, I'm not going to talk your ear off too much. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video. I certainly hope that maybe you understand that this isn't something that not everybody's going to grasp, not everybody's going to believe, and that's okay. But if you understand, if you believe, if you've already experienced some stuff yourself, or if you've done all the research on this stuff and you know that this whole special access program thing is true, this idea of weird science and frickin' magic is real, this idea that there are these patents, that we are trying to create full disclosure, that there has to be a way to get this information out that isn't legally disruptive, that isn't going to cause too much social upheaval, et cetera, then you got to know that everything I'm saying is true, baby. Everything. And I certainly hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm Yellowstone Wolf, Admiral Angeli, saying, remember, knowledge always overcomes power. Thank you for your time.